Do you have any idea what is truly hidden inside that greatest, darkest cave you've been running from your entire life? Every single morning, you throw those fears of failure, inadequacy, and being exposed naked before the world into the deepest corners of your mind. You think that by running from them, you are becoming free. In reality, you are only tightening your shackles. Because the human mind always conceals its ultimate potential inside the very dark box it fears the most. Diving into the deepest abysses of human psychology, Carl Gustav Jung shouted a timeless truth directly into the face of humanity. What you most fear is usually what you most need to do. According to Jung, the fear you run from is actually your destiny. For your soul to grow, to break its false shells and reach nirvana, you must shake hands with the very executioner that makes your mind tremble. If you flee from that executioner, you are condemned to remain a mere shadow for the rest of your life. Now release your mind completely. Let us escape into the smoky, bleak streets of 1920s London, where the suffocating fog swallows the alleys whole. As rain droplets beat against the marble stairs of magnificent palaces, a man is trembling behind those massive, cold walls. This is no ordinary man. This is Prince Albert Frederick Arthur George of the British Empire. Yet the noble titles on his shoulders are not enough to hide the colossal darkness in his soul. Prince Bertie is a prisoner, living inside the jail of his own voice. Prince Bertie suffers from a severe, agonizing stutter. Every time he opens his mouth, words knot up in his throat like bitter enemies. Whenever he steps before the public and holds the microphone, he cannot produce a single syllable for agonizing seconds in front of the empire's elite. The deadly silence radiating over the wireless airwaves is his ultimate nightmare. The shadow that Carl Jung would analyze decades later is rooted precisely within Bertie's own vocal cords. The fear of speaking to millions is consuming his soul alive, day by day. Bertie chooses to live disguised in the shadow of his older brother, David, the heir to the throne. His brother is charismatic, well-spoken, and effortlessly captivates the masses. Bertie believes he has found a safe haven in this comfort zone, running away from what he needs to do most, exactly as Jung conceptualized. He consoles himself with the thought that he will never have to face those microphones for the rest of his life. But destiny is quietly preparing a ruthless plan to execute Jung's absolute law. The year is 1936. King David falls in love with an American divorcee and casts the entire British throne away with the back of his hand for the sake of his love. This shocking news, echoing through the cold corridors of the palace, is nothing short of a death warrant for Prince Bertie. With his brother's abdication, he is left as the sole heir to the throne. The stuttering prince, whose breath catches at the sight of a microphone, who is terrified of speaking to millions, must now become the King of England. Bertie ascends the throne as King George VI, reluctantly, with raw terror visible in his eyes. The moment the heavy crown touches his head, Carl Jung's dark phrase begins to haunt the smoky rooms of the palace like a ghost. What you most fear is what you most need to do. He can no longer hide. He can no longer flee behind the shadows. An entire empire has fixed its eyes directly onto his trembling lips. And the expected apocalypse erupts. In 1939, Nazi Germany sets the world on fire. Adolf Hitler spits death across the radio waves with his predatory, mesmerizing, and terrifyingly flawless oratorical power. England is forced into war, and the citizens gather around their radios, waiting for one single thing: the voice of their king. Against Hitler's absolute genius of speech, England stands with a king who cannot talk, whose words strangle in his throat. The greatest psychological war in history has officially begun. King George VI is left entirely alone with a massive metal microphone in a dim, smoky radio room in London. Before him lies the manuscript of the war speech that will determine the fate of millions of lives. In that exact moment, you could feel the pounding of his heart, the tightening of the knot in his throat. There is nowhere left to run. He must either surrender to the fear and drag the pride of an empire into the dirt, or walk directly into the heart of that fear, just as Jung commanded.
Lionel Logue, his speech therapist, stands directly across from the king. Their eyes lock. Lionel looks at him not as a monarch, but as a human being. King George VI takes a deep, painful breath. His lips tremble. His eyes fill with tears. But in that split second, he decides to murder the pathetic, stuttering prince inside him. Carl Jung and George VI merge into a single body in that room. The thing he fears the most has now become his ultimate purpose on this earth.
The king opens his mouth. The first word comes out with immense difficulty, with pain, but with absolute clarity. His voice travels across the wireless waves into the bombed streets of London, straight into the ears of soldiers in the trenches. The speech is not flawless. It is filled with heavy pauses and strain, but it carries such a colossal force of will, such magnificent determination, that the entire British public unites around that single voice. The stuttering prince turns into an immortal symbol of resistance by stepping directly onto his ultimate fear.
Just as Sun Tzu's philosophy was written in blood at Thermopylae, Jung's philosophy is written by vocal cords in that smoky radio room in London. If George VI had continued to hide behind his brother and flee from his terror, he would have died an insignificant prince, forgotten by history. What made him immortal was not the battles won by his armies, but his defiance in bringing his greatest internal executioner, his own stutter, to its knees before the entire world. Now, let us step out of those misty London palaces and away from the king's trembling microphone. It is time to turn the mirror entirely upon yourself, right at this exact moment. Do not dare think we have lost the thread. The story of that stuttering king is mapping out your exact cowardly reflexes right now. Jung's piercing question stands directly in front of you. Which microphone are you running away from in your life today? Let's be brutally honest, King. Just as George VI hid behind his older brother, whose back are you hiding behind in your life? Inside which comfort zone are you waiting, completely numb, simply because you are terrified of making the exact move you need to make most? That job you need to pursue, that relationship you need to end, that project you need to launch. The very thing you fear the most is actually your peak, your nirvana. You are afraid because you are terrified of people mocking you if you fail. Is your fear genuinely greater than that stuttering king's fear of humiliating himself before millions of critical eyes? Stop lying to yourself. You are only expanding the deep void in your life by seeking shelter behind your anxieties. As Jung stated, as long as you fear entering that cave, you will never lay eyes on the treasure hidden inside it.
If you do not force yourself to confront the exact thing that terrifies you the most today, you will die as just another pathetic prisoner who never even heard the sound of their own true voice. What saved King George VI was not his throne or his boundless wealth. It was the fact that life forced him to face that microphone. Sometimes the universe intentionally backs you into a corner just to squeeze the raw, authentic power out of your soul.
I can feel the deep unease waking up inside you as you watch this video. That exact unease is your shadow, the one Jung warned you about. Everything you run from morphs into a colossal monster inside your mind. But the moment you walk directly toward it, just like the king's historic broadcast, you realize that the monster was nothing but an illusion, feeding entirely on your own weakness.
What is your microphone, King? Is it speaking in front of a crowd, taking a massive financial risk, or dropping all your fake masks to scream who you truly are to the world? No matter what it is, you are obligated to step in front of that microphone. Because as long as you refuse to deliver that speech, you will never be the main character on the stage of your own life.
True power does not mean being fearless. True power is when your knees are shaking, your throat is completely knotted, yet you remember Carl Jung's law and step into that smoky room anyway. It is using that raw terror as fuel to shake the fabric of the world, rather than trembling under a purple robe like George VI initially did. The paradox of power is this: the thing that scares you the most is the exact thing that will make you invincible.
The soil did not belong to Cincinnatus. Power consumed Xerxes, but words made George VI immortal. Now I ask you, what is the single greatest thing in your life right now that you are terrified of doing? The one thing you are constantly running from? And for Carl Jung's sake, be completely honest with yourself. Are you going to march into that fear and declare your own kingdom? Or are you going to rot away like a mere shadow at the mouth of that cave? Drop the delusions, use your unyielding will, and write the truth in the comments below.